seconds, I want to do a little rundown of what to expect. We have a few elements of the event today. We'll start with a speaking program. Afterwards, the governor will move over to the desk to sign some bills. That's when I will invite you to come up, get behind the desk, we'll take some photos. It's very exciting. Lastly, before the event ends, we will have a photo line. You'll have an opportunity to take a photo with the governor. We move real fast and fun through that photo line, so one photo only.
No,
and
they're behind
encourage you
schedule.
to get into groups. That would make everybody's lives more fun and flirty. So let's get
So
started.
they're starting to get started. I got to get off the phone.
Go ahead, Governor.
Am I up, Roxanne?
Yep.
I got that.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Isn't it an awesome day? This is why we love Oregon. Beautiful weather, fantastic things happening in our schools. Thank you for being here. I'm really thrilled to be here. We all need days like this where we get to celebrate. So really appreciate you being here because we are celebrating today ceremonial signing of 4 bipartisan bills passed by the legislature this session that will help our schools, help our educators, and the primary goal is to make sure our students can succeed and achieve their dreams. I want to start by thanking Greg Sproles, the Bethel School District, and Prairie Mountain K-8 School for hosting us this morning. Thank you very much. We got the whirlwind tour of some of the classrooms, and you could feel the joy and the excitement. You could feel it from the adults who were going through the lessons, the students who were engaged. We learned a little bit about the Loch Ness Monster. I can tell you about that later. And to have this success, this is what happens in the summer. This is what should be happening, is happening across the state of Oregon. Summer learning is the place to be, and learning how to read and to comprehend what you're reading is the world. And we're giving kids the world through these summer programs. And Bethel is doing an amazing job, so congratulations on the great work. As you can tell, I am inspired to be here today. You know, it's always helpful as a stodgy adults to be reminded of what we're fighting for, why we show up every day to do the work we're doing. To see the individuals doing the work today, to see the educators, to see the students, they put to life the laws that get passed in Salem. It's real people, real action, real lives happening because of the work that they do every day. We know that every Oregon student has promise, has the ability to succeed and build that future that they want. And our job, our responsibility is to help them. Because we need to provide a high-quality public education for every student in our state. You know, right now in our country, there are a lot of things that are dividing us. And as people, as neighbors, as communities, and that's taking up a lot of space. But let's remember, our young people, they're going to build that future that they want to see. And our job right now is to come together and to give them what they need. And that's a really simple idea, and it's something that unifies us as Oregonians and hopefully as Americans. So the bills that I'm signing today really take that simple idea of helping our schools, helping our educators, helping our students, and put that into work. It's real people, it's our future, and it's very exciting. As I said, this year Oregon leaders came together to pass bills that build on the fundamentals, making sure our schools are more predictably resourced, that they know the dollars they're going to get. Bills that will reduce the unnecessary bureaucracy for our districts, and connecting the investments we're making in Oregon more directly to the student outcomes that we want to see. Alongside an historic $11.36 billion state school fund, the first bill I want to talk about is House Bill 2140, which codifies and clarifies how we as a state calculate the state school fund, which is the base funding for our schools around the state. This bill is going to bring the predictability in knowing what you're going to see in the budget every 2 years from the state in terms of how it's calculated. Very, very important. I know it sounds a little wonky, but if you're a district leader, you need to know what the state is deciding for your districts in terms of that base funding, and I'm very excited about that bill. The second bill we're signing is Senate Bill 141, which is our bill that say, let's look differently at how we do accountability across our school districts. Making sure that all of our state dollars are going towards those benchmarks and those goals that we know will show success for our students. And we all know this is critical right now because we're falling short. There's a lot of great effort. We've got to coordinate that effort, clarify that effort, focus that effort so we can have what we need for our students. The bill will clarify expectations for our school districts, bring more transparency for our parents who want to know what's going on in their schools. It's also going to make sure we have a series of supports and interventions for our school districts so they can get the help they need to hit the goals that they are setting. We need to know if we're hitting our student outcomes, and this bill will help us provide a clear roadmap to do it. The third bill that's on the table today is House Bill 3037. This is getting even deeper into the unnecessary bureaucracy that we have all built, for good reason, that we ask our schools to do every single day. That bill focuses on our small and rural schools, because if you think about our smaller schools, our more rural schools, the principal is probably the person who is not only the principal, but they're writing the grants, they're filling out all the reports, and they probably are the literacy director too. Our small schools don't need more paperwork. So 3037 is going to simplify things there, so our educators in our smaller districts can just focus on students and not all the paperwork. And then lastly, House Bill 3040 is the next iteration of our work here in the state on early literacy. In 2023, the legislature stepped up and passed my huge early literacy initiative with resources and guidance. This bill continues to build on that, clarifying particularly how we're going to provide coaches in a regional setting for our educators so they have the skills and the resources they need to be successful. And in addition to this bill, and in addition to what we should be spending again on early literacy, the legislature in a tough budget environment allocated another $13 million on top of the current service level for early literacy. And I want to thank them for that. That's really, really important. Because you know what these students are doing here? They need help making sure they can read at grade level. And we need to help them every single way we can. And the legislature has stepped up. So for the legislators here, I want to say thank you. So before I close and hand it over to our other speakers, I want to give a heartfelt thank you to everyone who's here today. Each and every one of you in your own way, whether you are on work groups or on committees or lobbying in the legislature for your advocacy organizations, you all came together and said, we can do more for our students, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. There was a lot of hard work that went into these bills and other bills in the session that are going to be a critical marker in our history here in the state of how we're going to improve student outcomes so every child has the ability to succeed. It's important that we get public education right. It's one of those promises and responsibilities we have as the adults in the room to do everything we can for our students. And with the partnership of everyone in this room and the people who aren't in this room today because they're on vacation, these bills have happened, and they are a strong foundation for us to continue to do great things in K-12 public education in the state of Oregon. So thank you for that. We have some great speakers today, being joined by a true leader, Speaker of the House, Julie Fahey. Then we'll have Craig Sproles, the Superintendent of Bethel School District. We have Whitney Grubbs for Foundation for a Better Oregon, Debbie Holt, educator and literacy coach, Leah Emmett, who's a parent to an Oregon student, probably the hardest job in the world, and Stanley is going to wrap us up, our fifth grader who's going to talk about why he loves to read. So with that, I'm proud to hand over the podium to Speaker of the House, Julie Fahey.
Thank you, Governor, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Bethel. I'm so excited to have everyone here. I'm going to be fast because everyone wants to hear Stanley. But I completely agree with the Governor. We are here to celebrate. We're here to celebrate these historic education bills that we are having a ceremonial signing for today, and all the work of the legislature and the Governor's team and the Department of Education and all the advocates that made them happen. But I also want to take a minute to celebrate Bethel. In addition to being Speaker of the House, myself, Senator Manning are the representatives for the Bethel community in the state legislature. And I cannot think of a more fitting place to sign these bills than Prairie Mountain School in the Bethel School District. Bethel, particularly the early literacy bill 3040. Bethel is a champion of early literacy. And under the leadership of Superintendent Sproles, they have doubled down on what we know works. They switched to a science of reading curriculum some years ago. That was my first, a few years ago, I toured a school and learned all about the training that teachers were getting. That was my first exposure to schools that were making that switch to a new curriculum and what it actually takes to do that, the resources and the training. They started by making sure that every elementary teacher has the training and tools they need to teach reading using evidence-based methods. But they didn't stop there. They built a system around it. They used data to understand what each student needs, and they adjusted their instruction in real time. Of course, that kind of system only works when it's powered by people who care deeply about our kids. And Bethel is really fortunate to have dedicated administrators, teachers, educators, all up and down the line who show up every day for their kids. So you see that commitment in programs like the Summer Learning Program that we highlighted today, where students receive 60 hours of small group instructions from licensed teachers. And it is working. I visited the Summer Learning Program last summer, and I said, this all sounds great. Kids are engaged, fabulous, but I want to see the data. Show me that it works. And so we had a great visit, and I kept following up, and I said, when is that data going to be available? And was so thrilled about the results that the program was able to achieve last summer. And so what I was able to do then is to lift up the work that Bethel is doing in Salem, in the state legislature, to say more districts around the state should be doing this, should have the resources to do this, and to do it in a way that we know works. And so that, to me, I see it as part of I'm Speaker of the House, so help drive these education initiatives forward, but also I feel so lucky to represent this community and to be able to lift up the good work that they are doing. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to the Superintendent Craig Sproles, who's the one leading some of this amazing work and getting great results for his students.
So thank you for that. And Hannah, I have to apologize. I'm going to go off script on the script that I sent you, so just so you know. I am profoundly moved by the collection of people that we have in this room. And what the collection of folks in this room, with the classrooms that we just walked through, and we saw students who are emerging readers, we talk about how do you create a system of support for an individual student, for a third grade student who hasn't yet learned to read, so they can't be a master of their own future, an agent of change in this world. Because if you can't read, it is really darn hard to be that person that you can envision yourself being. So in this room, we have our school board members, we have the Department of Education, we have advocacy groups, we have COSA, so we have our group of administrators, we have our legislators here, and we have an incredibly bold and impassioned governor who understands the power of education. All of that means that we can move the dial for that third grade student that we just visited. So the bills that you're gonna hear today provide consistency and stability, a stable funding source, and the governor came out this year. I've been in education for 28 years, and we've never had a CSL, we've never had a budget that's presented early enough in the session that it doesn't create all of this fervor about trying to move that number up. What is there a fervor about instead of about moving that number up? It's how do we teach our kids to learn to read? So having a governor who took a bold stand on the CSL early in the session, and having local legislators who not only show up in Salem, they show up in Bethel schools. They know what we're doing. They are close partners to where we are at. That moves the dials for our kids. So in Bethel, we talk about creating relevant, responsive, and joyful learning communities where all of our students thrive. And one of the things that I heard, one of the themes that I heard about summer learning was, can summer learning be academically focused and joyful? And if you wonder that, walk down the hall. So we deeply believe that doing hard things well leads to joy. So it's not that we can't teach kids to read and have joy doing it. And if we're not teaching kids to read, I'm telling you, life is hard. Life is not joyful if you are a 17-year-old at Willamette High School who doesn't have foundational reading skills. life is daunting. So we need to do both. And one of the things that I love about pairing the CSL bill with the accountability bill is that it reorients schools into our piece of this puzzle. Coming out of the pandemic, we really focused on mental and behavioral well-being, which was super important as we did that. And now we're focusing on academic results. So we need to get better at teaching our kids to read and write. We need to get better at producing creative and collaborative problem solvers who can solve the problems of the future. They're not the problems we're facing today. More than any other time, our students need to be prepared to solve tomorrow's problems. So that's what we're trying. All of that works together to produce higher levels of reading in Oregon. So I'm really proud to be here today. I'm proud of all the people who showed up today, but most importantly, show up every day for our kids. So thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. To be here. I'm so honored to be here with Governor Kotek, Speaker Fahey, Senator Manning, Dr. Williams, Superintendent Sproles, and many advocates for Oregon children who are here in this room this morning. Today we're celebrating a landmark step toward a better Oregon where every child can learn, grow, and thrive. Senate Bill 141, thank you all for your leadership to make this moment possible. My name is Whitney Grubbs. I'm the Executive Director of Foundations for a Better Oregon, or FBO. We are a nonprofit and nonpartisan project of 5 major Oregon philanthropic foundations. As a state, we have struggled for decades to make sure all children receive the education they need and deserve. These struggles are not for lack of effort, lack of passion, or lack of commitment. Our challenges are systemic, born from years of inconsistent strategies and investments, a revolving door of reforms and one-off initiatives, and the lack of a statewide plan for improvement across all 197 school districts. We have piled on more and more requirements and barriers, but never delivered the focus, coherence, and support that research tells us is critical to making lasting change at scale. To achieve positive outcomes for all students, we need adequate and stable funding and strong and supportive accountability. That's how we get the most for every dollar invested in public education and how we fulfill our promise of a high-quality education for every child, no matter their identity, zip code, or life circumstances. Senate Bill 141 builds on the historic Student Success Act of 2019 by expanding 4 research-proven and Oregon-tested strategies. The legislation streamlines state bureaucracy to reduce burden on schools and educators. It expands how we measure student success and requires school districts to set clear goals to improve their outcomes. It doubles down on best practices to improve learning for all students and recommits us to close the unacceptable opportunity gaps that impact students of color, students with disabilities, rural students, and low-income students. And when districts aren't meeting their goals, the state finally has clear authority and the obligation to provide high-quality support to drive progress. As a longtime advocate and leader in education policy, I've seen decades of federal and state efforts to build accountability fall flat. These top-down reforms did not recognize the complexity of the task at hand, nor did they recognize the humanity of the hardworking folks across our public education system. We can and will repeat those mistakes. Real accountability and system improvement requires strong relationships, shared agreement on our goals, a long-term commitment, and the courage to constantly reflect, learn, and improve. It is hard work, but it's critical work that we must do to keep our promise to Oregon's kids. Today, we celebrate a new era of commitment and progress. Oregonians know a strong public education building a strong economy, healthy communities, a durable democracy, and a secure future. It's going to take all of us, from Salem to districts to classrooms to neighborhoods, folks in business and labor. We all need to lean in together. We need to cheer progress when we see it, and we need to learn from our mistakes and pivot. So today is a celebration of Oregon kids, and because of that, I brought mine, my rising senior, Hazel, who is going to be graduating from McDaniel High School. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Holt, and I've been with the Bethel School District for 20 years, first as a teacher and now as an early literacy instructional coach, and we're so grateful to have all of you here today. Here in Bethel, we believe that every single child can learn to read, and that literacy is equity in action. Our own Bethel Summer Reading Program is a powerful example of what happens when we empower our schools with evidence-based, research-aligned curriculum that's rooted in the science of reading, when we empower teachers with high-quality, comprehensive professional development, and we empower our students with grade-level language comprehension and vocabulary instruction, individualized small group instruction, and targeted interventions. Some of our most joyful moments here this summer, witnessing one of our most vulnerable students read their first complete sentence independently, listening to some of our kids refer to themselves as paleontologists when they're digging for fossils out of the playground, and listening to kindergartners explain that one character saw the stone as a pebble and one character saw the stone as a hill because the characters had different perspectives, which was one of their vocabulary words. 1 in 4 of our students that were in our program last summer no longer needed intensive supports when they returned to school in the fall. Oregon's investment in early literacy is a step in ensuring that every single one of our children learns to read with evidence-based materials and instruction and supports. So thank you for supporting our children, thank you for supporting our families, for supporting our teachers, and for supporting literacy coaches like me.
Good morning. My name is Leah Emmett, and I'm a parent of a child who struggles to read. Like many parents, I've seen the toll it takes on my child when education investments don't actually translate into results in the classroom. I support Governor Kotek's education accountability bill because it isn't just about more money, it's about making sure those dollars reach the classrooms and make a real difference for students. I'm proud to have a governor that is so committed to ensuring our schools perform to their highest potential. That is the accountability students deserve, that teachers deserve, and that families deserve. As a parent of a struggling reader, I know every year without results in the classroom is a year of lost potential that will affect my child and others like him for years to come. This crucial policy supports teachers and districts and holds everyone in the education space accountable to the high expectations we have for our children's education. It does right by our kids. Thank you, Governor Kotek.
My name is Stanley, and I am 10 years old. I'm going into 5th grade this fall. My favorite thing about school is getting to play with your friends when it's free time. My favorite subjects in school is math and PE, because I find math a very interesting subject. PE is my favorite class because it lets me move and be free and play with friends even though it's learning. you for caring about schools and making them better.
Now that Stanley has dropped the mic. Let's sign some bills.
Yeah, I know. They have their setup.
Come on up.
Okay, now we're gonna do the bill signing. You're just gonna get a sound bite anyway, so. I never put the sound on. Never have, and they didn't tell me they wanted it either. Ooh, big one.
It's going to be really tight. We like each other. Go ahead and put it back here. We'll have a chance for everyone to take a photo with the governor, so don't worry. Yeah, shot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one of these. Yeah.
Everybody get close. If you're a little shorter, come closer. You're getting a hug.
Really close. All right. Everybody look to Hannah.
Okay, right here. This is the official camera. We're
Okay,
gonna
we
block
have
the
the camera like each other.
So if you guys would all look in here. Awesome. Perfect. Stanley, can you put your remarks down by your side?
Thank you, I don't know.
Perfect. I don't want to have two bills, that's great. Awesome. Looks great. All right. Next up, do you want to?
Are we ready?
Go ahead.
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. We're going to start off with the Senate. So, Senator Manning, we're going to do Senate Bill 141. Okay. And then we're going to 2140, which is our CSL bill. Those in the room, I never want to talk about 4951.
Ever again.
Ever again.
Now you never have to.
No, we don't have to.
I had to get some shots.
Okay, and now we are on to, this is our literacy bill, House Bill 3040. Keep reading, people. Keep reading.
If y'all want to scooch in a little bit further on the end, awesome.
That's a technical term. Scooch, people. Scooch. Okay. And then 3037, so our small schools can stop doing so much good work. Let's free them up. Okay. All right, now we're going to do this weird thing where I hold them all up. Hold on a second. Okay. You're going to help me out. You hold this one. That one. I'll hold these two. Okay. Here we go. There we go.
Yeah. I'm going to let these guys get all their photos and then ask everyone to scooch back. So everyone smile.
Yes.
Yay.
Woo.
Looking at any of these cameras. Give y'all a couple more seconds.
I have one question for now. I'll ask another question later.
Okay.
But I just want to know what happens if schools get to that fourth year of evaluation going into Senate Bill 141. What happens if they don't have the funds to redirect that 25% towards prioritized improvement efforts, and they simply can't make the improvements? Is there a plan after that, or has that not necessarily been thought of yet?
Well, I think we are now moving to the stage of, putting the rules together to really flesh out what happens there. But the first thing I want to say about that is the goal is never to get there, right? I think if a district ends up in that position where there is a much deeper conversation with that district about how their dollars are being spent, then we have failed along the way to get there. So the goal is never to have to get to that spot. And I think the other thing that's really important is it's not about the state taking over a district. It is about the state and the district sitting down and say, look, for whatever reason, you're just not hitting your mark. What can we be doing differently? And giving them the ability
it may be a very difficult situation to redirect some dollars to be more focused. I hope we never get there, but we have a lot to do to figure out how that would actually work. So in the next year, the department will be working on the rules to figure that out. But let's never get there, right? Let's make sure districts have what they need in this first, second, third year, so they're on track to hit their outcomes. That's our goal.
All right, we've got virtual from K2. How will you ensure that this wave of accountability measures doesn't become compliance focused for districts at the expense of real student-centered change?
Well, I think, thanks for the question. One of the things we heard in this entire process, and this was many months and many conversations in the making, was we don't just want to take this kind of very rigid regulatory approach. We want to free up our districts to focus on what works. And you need to have a North Star. You need to understand where you want to go in the different benchmarks that we know when students hit them, whether it's third grade reading or ninth grade on track or attendance in kindergarten. If you're hitting those marks, that student's going to be way more successful. So it's really about setting goals, setting targets. Compliance is not the issue here. This is about expectations and targets and resources prioritized for the right direction. And in terms of making sure it happens, the other piece that we didn't talk a lot about here is, what is the state going to do? The Oregon Department of Education is going to be very focused on streamlining what they do, focusing on smart, helpful technical assistance, and that is a reorientation also for the agency, because they have been told over the years to be focused on compliance and reporting and things that we all thought made us feel better. They're going to be able to free up their time to work directly with the school districts to help them stay on track. And that is a switch also for the state's partnership with the districts.
All right, for the in-person, we got a mic so people online can hear.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Hansen, White with KLCC.
Hi there.
And my question is, with this funding and accountability measures, in let's say 3 or 5 years, what does the successful implementation look like? What is your literacy goal with this for the state?
Well, we'll be working on those specific numbers, but the goal is to make sure we're seeing improvement in all those areas. We've had a set of goals related to the Student Success Act. In 2019, when the Student Success Act was passed, there were 5 things we would be tracking and holding our districts accountable to. We're going to add some things there. So the progress on those numbers in those particular outcome measures are where we're going to be focused. Sometimes we ask people to do too many things and focus on too many things. And when you water down what you're focused on, you don't see the progress you need. So focusing on a particular set of benchmarks across the districts, we'll be able to compare. The other thing that's embedded in the conversation, which is a little more in the weeds, how we assess how students are doing, talking about those assessments differently, those big standardized tests, which frankly have been required by the federal government. We're going to work on more types of interim assessments during the school year so educators get more real-time feedback. That is going to help them know where their students are going, and that is also going to be a helpful part. I want to also talk about the current service level bill, and I appreciate the superintendent's comments. We're always going to be doing everything we can to get as many resources into our schools. When districts know what it means when the number comes from the state, how it's going to be split up in the 2-year biennium is really important. We've literally been having that conversation for 2 decades. I cannot tell you how that clarity is just going to make it easier for districts to plan. And when you can plan, you can achieve better.
Thank you, Governor Kotek. I'm Percy Blackmore with Outside the Frame. That's a nonprofit that trains homeless youth, like I used to be in filmmaking. My question to you today is, what will schools in Oregon feel like and be like if Bill 141 succeeds? And also, what will it take, in your opinion, for that bill to succeed?
Well, what we want to create are those schools and school districts, those individual schools where students feel supported, they feel successful, they feel like they want to show up every day because they're learning. I think the focus on literacy in particular is really important. I think I can't even imagine what it must be like when you're a high schooler and you can't read, or you're you're a struggling reader. That just impacts your entire life. So when districts can focus on the key things, I think students are going to feel that. When students know that the adults in the room have their best interests at heart, are focused on certain things, students are going to feel that. So I think it's going to change our attendance rates, and we're going to focus on that because students need to show up. You can't learn if you're not in the classroom. So I feel that all of these bills are sending a message that our districts and our schools are going to be places of learning and joy and inclusivity that our students need. In terms of overtime, it's going to take maintenance and monitoring, right? Putting the structures in place at the Department of Education where we know every year that we are following this and we have a way to track things and we have a way to say we're not succeeding, because we're going to succeed in some places and other places we're going to struggle. So that's not a failure. That's an opportunity to jump in and try something different. And we should not be afraid of knowing where we're standing so we can actually get better. And I think that's what you see with all of these bills, particularly 141.
Hi, I'm Lily St. Angelo from Lookout Agency School. Do online publications.
Go look out.
Thanks. So, given the recent detention of an Iranian father in Fort Leavenworth School, I'm wondering, what would you say to parents who are worried about dropping their kids off, either for their own safety or for their children's safety going into this school year? What would you say to them?
The first thing I would say is the state and the Department of Education are working consistently with all of our school districts to help them understand what the law is, what they should be communicating to their families about Oregon as a sanctuary state and what protections are available. That information and ability to understand the law and where you sit in it is really important for all of our parents and our students. The other thing is that as governor, I'm going to continue to stand up for our values. It is not okay to be standing outside of people's schools looking to catch parents in front of their children. That is something new in this country. We have had places in our country, our churches, our places of worship, our schools, where that was not an acceptable thing to do. And that situation that happened out in Washington County, we got to keep that from happening again, because it does send a chilling effect for our families. So top line is we're going to keep standing up for what we believe here. We're going to educate people on their rights and send a clear message to the Trump administration that that is not okay and we need to stop that. Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Miranda Sear with the Register Guard newspaper, and I wanted to ask, with the federal funding uncertainty for school districts, and even with this historic investment in schools from the state of Oregon, a lot of school districts are facing budget cuts. So how are you hoping that the state can ensure stability for school districts during this time?
Well, first thing is we need a stronger commitment from the federal government to stay the course on what they have been funding. I was glad to see just last week we had the announcement that the Trump administration was releasing the dollars that would normally come to the districts across the state, the title money, 21st century schools, English language learner support, professional development money. Districts across the country, red, blue, or purple states depend on those title dollars. So hopefully that will be a trend, that they will stop playing with those dollars that are basic to our school districts, because we need those dollars. When it comes to the state, being very clear about the dollars we have, I mean, these are difficult budget times, not only for the school district, but also for state and local government. We have to prioritize K-12 education. We're going to do everything we can to do that. And we're going to keep asking the Trump administration to stop playing games with the dollars they do send. We need those dollars. And hopefully we won't see any more of that chaos coming on the federal funding on education. And we'll just keep joining other governors across the country saying, stop that, we need the schools to be funded. So thank you.
I think everybody got their without one. Hi again,
Hey.
Gabrielle Bowman from Katu KMTR. I do have again a question on the outside the bill was come today. But why did you make the decision to create an executive order banning cell phones in schools, even though the legislators didn't pass the bill?
Right. Thank you for that question. I believe that it is in the best interest of our students to put the cell phones aside from bell to bell during the classroom day. I have heard directly from young people who are in schools who are successfully doing that, saying that has changed the school environment for them. They spend more time talking to their peers. They are more focused in the classroom. We know this is the right thing to do. My preference was that the legislature would have passed the bill. You know, lots of things happened in the legislature, I understand that, but I didn't want to wait till next year. And so doing an executive order as soon as I could to send the message for this coming school year that we have to do this was, in my mind, the right way to keep us on track. And I want to thank the school districts and the Department of Education, because everyone is stepping up and saying, let's make this work. And so all the school boards are going to have new policies by October, end of October. By the beginning of next year, it'll all be implemented. And my message is also to the students. Be part of this. This is going to be helpful. It's going to be a transition for some of you. But at the end of the day, I think you're really going to appreciate the fact that you can be in school and off your phone and learn and be with your friends in a way that you can't now, and that's going to be good for what you want to do in school. Ooh, a legacy question. That's a big question. I'm kind of bad at the legacy question because I really focus on, well, what can we do right now? What's going to happen in the next 6 months and 12 months? Because implementation is really key. At the end of the day, I want to make it's about making sure students can read and write so they can be successful. I have been in this business long enough that sometimes you hear, well, not every child can be successful. I don't believe that. I believe every student with the right skills and help from their educators that they can be successful and achieve their full potential. And that's what we want from our school districts. And this is going to put us on the path to do that. So I'm very excited. There's a lot of work to do. Like, a bill is just a start. We have a lot of work to do to implement all this, and that's where that's what we're going to do next. We're going to make sure we put all of this into practice as soon as possible. So thank you.
What is going on at Bethel that you would like to see in other school districts across the state?
Thank you. It's great to be at Bethel because, as Speaker Fahey was talking about, she has been a strong proponent of literacy. Without Speaker Fahey, I don't believe we would have gotten 3 consecutive summers funded from the legislature this year. She's very committed to this, understands the connection between summer learning and literacy and the summer learning gap, and we have a lot of success because of her. What I think we see here in Bethel, sometimes we say, like, we can't achieve this. I don't believe that. We have school districts across the state, like Bethel, who are doing high-quality summer programming. Their literacy numbers are moving. Their students are learning how to read. If one school in Oregon can do it, every school in Oregon can do it. So when I look at these classrooms, I'm like, these are models that we can scale to other districts, to other schools. It's achievable, and I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. Like, I want to put all of these literacy educators right now on the road with their materials and say, like, you can do this thing with the cool t-shirts next summer. Why don't you do that, right? We can, like, if we are teaching each other as Oregonians how to do this well, we're all going to be successful. No district has to do this alone. We are all in this together. Bethel can do it. Bethel's a great model. And I think I'm a little jealous that, the center has such a great school in his district. But as the governor, every school is my school now. So, so Bethel on the road, right? That's what we're going to do. So there you go.
What would you say to parents who are nervous to leave their kids without their phones in classrooms? What are parameters around that, especially, again, kind of following up with Lookout's question of safety in school?
So I heard that, and I took it very seriously. I know there are parents who want to know that they can reach their student at any time. There is exceptions in the executive order for individual situations, like, maybe you have a sick family member and it's going to be important for a parent to reach a child during the day. A school principal can make that choice for the day. Those things, you can have that flexibility. I also know that you can call the school and the school can go find your child. So I feel like that communication that you need in the district, in the school during the school day can happen. We need as a state to continue to make sure our schools are safe. And I'm focused on that. I just signed a set of gun violence prevention measures and a bill that I think are going to be helpful. We got to keep doing that, but I don't think that fear should keep us from doing other good things, which is creating a cell phone-free environment for our kids. So I think we can figure out the safety issues. So I really appreciate the parents taking that leap with us to say, I think my kids are going to be okay. And they're going to learn because they're not on their phone. So thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Governor.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.